What's up, Bulls fans? Welcome back to the TheSlamDuncan YouTube channel. As you can see from the title of this video and what I have up on here, I'm going to be talking about this whole big meltdown loss by the Chicago Bulls to the San Antonio Spurs. Bulls led by 23 in this game and absolutely got destroyed in the second half, mostly the fourth quarter. So I'm going to break down that a little bit. I don't really have much to say because I think everyone, on TV and what Billy said in his press conference kind of, summed it up pretty well. But I do want to kind of talk about the OKC game because I didn't make a video on that. But I'm going to talk about OKC for just a slight bit, but then I'm really going to talk about this game and kind of break down of what really happened for the Bulls and why they had such a big, terrible loss here to the Spurs. But before we get into that, though, this is my time to remind you to hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into this. So I didn't make a video about the Thunder game for the Bulls. It was a great win for the Bulls. But I thought this game was very similar to the Raptors game. I made a video about the Raptors, and this game just felt very similar. So I'm like, I don't need to make anything about this game because it just is like, it's all the same. The lineup change is still here. And the Bulls yet again faced a team that was very undermanned. They, the Thunder had no Lou Dort, no Al Horford, nor George Hill. So there were guys that were out for the Thunder. But not only that, though, that they had a bunch of young guys playing in this game. And it was very similar to what the Raptors were facing for when the Bulls faced them because, the Raptors had 3 starters out, and the Raptors had a bunch of just young guys in playing the game. More vets than, obviously, the Thunder, but there were a bunch of young guys playing for the Raptors as well, and, that kind of helped the Bulls win that game. And this game was very similar. It's just you have a young team with not a lot of veterans out there for the Thunder, and the Bulls end up getting a win. I did want to kind of point out something. I tweeted this out during the Thunder game, and I also I noticed it again in the Spurs game. But one of the things that I love about Billy Donovan, which I am going to kind of criticize him a little bit in this video, but Billy Donovan, when his time in OKC, he had this set that was very effective when the big three was there. So when Westbrook, George, and Anthony were on the team, he found a play that was very effective and uses all 3 of the guys' strengths to their advantage. So right here, this is called a hawk set. I talk about this a lot because this is, I think, a play or a set in the NBA that works very well in today's NBA game. As, 3-point shooting is a big thing right now. But also, if you have a post-up option, this really helps you get that post-up option, the ball. And one of the things here in this play, which I'm going to break down to you, and I'm going to show you a similar play to what the Bulls are running. It's not exactly this play, but it's very similar, right? I'm going to break down to what happens in this play. And this is a straight-up hawk set. Like, this is the definition of a hawk set here by the Thunder. And what you're going to see here is you're going to see George. He's going to Carmelo Anthony's going to come up here and set a rip screen for George's man. George is going to then go down and basically kind of come back up here. And you're going to see Adams and Felton here. They're going to set screens, basically like a stagger screen. But it's basically floppy action coming off of a double screen here for George to come up. But then after Melo here, he comes up and sets that rip screen. He's then going to set just another simple screen for Russell Westbrook here. This then forces a switch, which then you're going to see Melo go straight to the post. And now with this in play, you have Melo in the post with the mismatch, most likely. And then you have George coming off of the floppy action here. And this is a play that I think just, Melo's great in the post. George is good coming off those down screens, right? This, works very well for these players' strengths, especially the big 3 here. And, Westbrook also just has the ability to decide, hey, if I want to take this to the rim, then he can do that as well. But also Westbrook is the point guard here. So I'm going to play this out here. You see George, he gets that rip screen from Melo. And right here, then after Melo sets that rip screen, you'll see Westbrook and Melo do a simple little pick and roll here. And as that's happening, you see that George is coming off of this down screen, or double down screen, really, floppy action here by Felton and Adams. And then it's up to Westbrook to, make the decision. And this time he decides, hey, I'm going to throw it to George. And then obviously that goes in. That's a strength of George. But, if Westbrook decided, hey, this isn't here, then I got Melo right here that I can throw it to in the post, most likely with a mismatch. But the great thing about this play is, like, it ends here with George shooting the three and Westbrook just giving it to George, right? But if you see what Felton's doing here, for example, like it doesn't have to end there, right? You see that Felton's like basically kind of moving as if Anthony's going to come up and set a screen for him, so then Felton can come up to the top of the key. So let's say George is not available right here, then Felton is either open in the paint, which he kind of is right here, but there's Jordan right here, but then he can come up from a screen from Anthony and then come get the ball. Or let's say, that doesn't work out either, then Adams can come up and set a pick and roll screen for Russell Westbrook. So overall, I just love this Hawk set. But I want to show you like a similar play to what the Bulls are running. Now, it's not exactly that, but it's very similar in the action of like, okay, we want to get a guy who can post up very well. In this case, Thaddeus Young, the ball in the post, or just options in the post here. And then we're going to have Zach LaVine then come off of a double screen here and the floppy action, and then be available here at the top of the key. And this is obviously where Zach is really good. Like Zach's very good at catch and shooting, but also he can just catch it and just drive right to the rim. So it's very good. It brings a bunch of options for the Bulls in just one play. But the other thing that I really think I like about this play is just this helps Kobe White, for example. And Kobe has shown that he has had struggled with just decision making this year, and this type of play, at least he still has some decision making responsibility, but he sees the options. It's like it's either throw it to Young here or throw it to LaVine here. Or if none of those work out, then there's probably a third action that we can see from maybe later in the future. But this is more. It's not exactly a Hawk set, but it could be like more of like a 23 punch action. As you're going to see LaVine here set like a cross screen for Young to come to the post, and then you're going to see LaVine then come off the double screen here by Porter and Williams, basically the floppy action that George would run, but it's the same idea, right? Now this play, the first play you're going to see right here, the play gets broken because LaVine sets such a good screen here that Young is wide open, and because of that, you're going to see Patrick Williams do the right thing here, and then he's going to make himself available baseline and just break the play, which is good. I'm happy to see that the Bulls are starting to recognize, hey, when should we break the play? Because we have an easy option right here. And we've been seeing that a decent amount this year when it's like someone has a mismatch or someone just has a wide open shot. It's not a bad option to break the play if someone's wide open or has an easy matchup, right? So right here, again, just kind of break it down. You see LaVine, he's going to set a cross screen for Thaddeus Young and completely picks Moses Brown. So as you can see right here, Thaddeus Young is wide open when he gets the ball. So good job by Kobe White to recognize that. And because it was so wide open, you see the rest of the guys, or let's break it, and you see Patrick Williams comes down here, baseline, potentially be open for a cut, but Thaddeus Young just basically, he just takes advantage and then scores the layup here. But in his next play, which doesn't show the entire play, unfortunately, it's the exact same thing. So you're gonna see here that Thaddeus Young gets the ball, but it was the same action. LaVine set that screen to get Thaddeus Young into the post-up option, but now you're seeing, and it's very slow, but you're seeing LaVine here come off with that double stagger screen by Williams and Porter Jr., and this is basically like the George and the Hawk set, and now he's coming up here and becoming available to his teammates, but this ends up just having Young basically drawing the defense from the post, and then he throws it to Patrick Williams, and then Williams gets an easy layup. So I just want to break that down because it just shows you what type of coach Billy Donovan is, right? I love this type of play by Billy Donovan because it really benefits the people who can either post up or also, a guy like Zach, he can then come off with the double stagger screen and then get himself an open shot. But it just helps with motion in the offense. This is something that needs to happen for the Bulls, as we saw in today's game against the San Antonio Spurs, that it just wasn't there. I apologize if I'm not really into it. I am very tired, but I'm going to break this down a little bit. I do have one play I kind of want to show you, but the Bulls in the first half of the Spurs game, it was basically kind of what we saw the past two games. The Bulls were playing very well. I love the ball movement. I love the player movement. The defense was pretty solid. I will say that I was a little nitpicky. There were moments, especially in the early first quarter and then end of second quarter, where the Bulls the initial defense was good, or pretty solid. The help defense was on point in the first half. I love the help defense, but the problem was the rotation. There was, obviously we've been talking about help the helper all year, and it wasn't there. And there were multiple times where I'm like, oh, wow, Otto Porter should have been there to help, or there's a possession that ends in a foul that it's like, we didn't help the help, or the weak side help didn't come. So it just, that type of stuff, I was a little nitpicky. But the main thing that I tweeted right at halftime was like, the Bulls offense is rolling, the defense is pretty solid, but at that time, the San Antonio Spurs only had 2 threes. And I have to say, it wasn't like the Bulls were making the Spurs shoot bad threes. The Spurs were getting wide open threes, and I'm like, they're just missing them. So luckily, they missed a bunch, right? And as you can see, they only shot 25% for the game, but they had 2 threes at the half, right? So that means they made 6 threes in the second half. But these 6 threes in the second half, they're very timely. But like, it shows you that if, let's say, the Spurs were hitting the threes in the first half, this is a totally different game. The Bulls wouldn't be up by 18 going to halftime. Like, it was a completely different game. So just kind of pointing that out, I was already a little bit concerned going into half, and I already knew, like, this is a Spurs team that is not going to quit. They're coached by who I think is the best coach in the league by far. Like, I know that's a youth movement, but this is a different team than the OKC team and the Raptors team we just faced, right? This team, while there is a youth movement going through San Antonio, they have vets. I talked about in one of my past videos about potential moves or potential point guards for the Bulls to go get. I mentioned that Patty Mills is a free agent this upcoming offseason, and that Carneshaw should go after him. And I think tonight shows to all Bulls fans why I said such a thing, because I like Patty Mills, and Patty Mills had a really big effect on tonight's game against the Bulls. He is a great shooting point guard, but he also knows how to control pace of the game. But let's kind of just roll through some of the stats here. One of the big things that was talked about was the free throw discrepancy. A lot of Bulls fans were like, wow, we aren't getting calls. Like, this is so terrible. Like, first off, the San Antonio Spurs, they foul the least amount in the league, right? They're such a good defensive team, and they got a bunch of defensive guys, like, especially DeJounte Murray, right? Like, this San Antonio Spurs team is very disciplined. They're not going to foul. And, under Greg Popovich, this has just been a constant under Greg Popovich, right? So, to be honest, there were some plays where I'm like, especially with Zach, like, I thought Zach got absolutely hacked. But most of the time, though, there wasn't that many fouls this game, and the Bulls just did not draw that many. And they mentioned in the post game that there was a lack of paint presence for the Bulls, and that was a big problem tonight. I do think that the lack of paint presence was big, especially because now, as much as they left Thaddeus Young, like, I don't know how long he can stay at that center position, or basically be playing center or the main inside guy, especially starting now, because that's a lot for him. He came into this league as a small forward, and he's clearly the biggest guy that has a paint presence for the Bulls right now. But, man, I have to tell you, Lauri Markkanen needs to actually step it up, and because he did not perform well this game at all. I thought he was very hesitant to shoot, but I think there was a couple of things that we saw from this game that was like, it showed for all Bulls fans like what this team really needs. And I'm going to break it down a little bit more when I say that, but let's finish this. Bulls won the rebounding battle, but I think that's more from the first half when the Spurs were just missing almost everything. The assists were good, but again, mostly from the first half. And then the turnovers, it definitely ramped up in the third, and at end of the third into the fourth were the most turnovers by far for the Bulls. But Billy Donovan talked about how he thought once the subs started happening in the third that it just, things started going south for the Bulls, and he's absolutely right. The bench 100% did not play well this game. I think Wendell Carter Jr. was probably the best person off the bench tonight, and he did not play very well either. So the bench obviously did not do very well, but it's kind of a big thing right now for the Bulls. It's like, you're not exactly shocked, right? Because our bench all year has been so great because we have Satoransky and Young on the bench, right? But now because they're in the starting lineup, our bench is very, very bad. And without Garrett Temple out there, it's like our bench unit is very, very inconsistent and not reliable. So it all went south once the subs started coming in. There was a Kobe White turnover that happened late in the third quarter that made Donovan immediately put in Satoransky again, which was not good to do because Satoransky did not give much rest at that point. And it just showed you, like, this second unit needs help. And without any of the vets out there really with them, except for OPJ, who also was not very good tonight, they're going to struggle. And then the fourth quarter happened, and this is when San Antonio was really putting in the full court pressure. This is where I'm going to start getting into where the Bulls need, like, this is where this game showed where the Bulls need certain guys, right? This is where I keep saying to all Bulls fans, like, this team needs specifically a floor general, right? Because what San Antonio did with the full court pressure, right? What San Antonio is trying to do is they're trying to make the Bulls play faster. So instead of, letting them walk it up and run clock, right? They want the Bulls to start really running and feel all out of sorts, and then also then chuck up a shot early in the shot clock, right? They would rather have the Bulls shoot a wide open three early in the shot clock than let them get right into the lane and get a wide open layup, right? If they make it, then so what? But if anything, is that you're making the Bulls shoot very early in the shot clock, therefore you're giving yourself more time to come back, and that's exactly what happened. Like, Greg Popovich did this perfectly, and this is where I keep saying the Bulls need a floor general, is because a great passing point guard doesn't help in this situation, right? The Bulls need a guy at the point guard position that understands how to control the pace of the game. We saw when the San Antonio Spurs went to full court pressure that the Bulls started playing really, really fast. And that's where the Bulls get in trouble. Because once they start playing really fast, it either ends in a turnover, which we saw a lot of, or it ends in a quick shot, or specifically a quick three-point shot, which then ends in a miss, and then San Antonio's outflying and then potentially scoring, or just the fact that we just, want empty possession, right? But a point guard that is a floor general, that understands the pace of the game, would have helped the Bulls win this game easily. Because when the bench came in, all of a sudden it was just like, San Antonio's like, all right, we're getting up in their faces. We're going to make them play fast. And that's exactly what happened. And as good as Satoransky is at the point guard spot, he is not exactly a floor general. He is a very solid point guard, but he doesn't understand pace of the game that well. And this is where I'm like, it's not all about assists at that point guard spot. It's not just assists. It's not just good passing ability. It's not just good passing IQ. A point guard or a leader, specifically a floor general, has to understand the pace of the game. And this is like a prime example of what Chris Paul did to us when we faced the Phoenix Suns, right? It's like, you saw Chris Paul is like, no, we're going to make sure we run our sets. We're not going to speed things up. And if we ever do speed things up, it's going to be on my own tempo to make sure that it benefits us, right? And this is where the Bulls need that type of guy. And I've been saying it constantly, that it can't just be a good passing point guard, right? Everyone brings up Lonzo Ball, but I think Lonzo Ball is actually, he just plays at one pace only, and that's just fast, right? We don't need that. We need a guy that understands pace of the game. So, I brought up Patty Mills, for example. He was one of the reasons why San Antonio came back in this game, and he was leading the charge in pace. Like, he was one of the main ball handlers. He understood what to do. That's the reason why I feel like someone like him, especially his championship experience, would be very valuable for the Bulls at that point guard spot. This game is not 100% on the bench. I want to make that very clear, and Billy Donovan made it very clear as well, that this, the bench may have started this all, and then the starters then came back in when it was basically, San Antonio basically was like within one. But the starters then need to come in and make sure that they stop this bleeding, right? The Bulls need a second scorer. I don't know what position it's going to have to be at. Ideally, it would be a forward. But this is where I'm like, Markkanen, you need to step up here, because I can't have you be shooting corner three-point shots right now when the Bulls are, we're playing really fast all of a sudden. We need an option down low. We could not get into the paint once the San Antonio Spurs went 4 smalls and then Pirtle at the center. That lineup killed us because these are all good perimeter defenders. And then once we got into the lane, we met Pirtle, right? We need a guy that is at the forward position that can be a threat in the paint. And Markkanen is supposed to be that dude, and he did not show up at all. He even fed into what the Spurs were trying to do by taking early three-point shots, and he made one of them, but he also missed a couple. That's not what we're supposed to be doing, right? I don't want my 7-footer out there shooting threes, especially when we're struggling to score the basketball. I want him inside posting up, especially when he had Keldon Johnson, who's 6'5" on him all night. And even at times, Lonnie Walker, who's also 6'5" on him, and Lonnie Walker plays shooting guard. The Bulls need a second scorer because this then takes all the pressure off LaVine. LaVine had to basically do everything, and he can only take us so far. He's Zach LaVine, he's only one player. The fact that the Bulls don't have a secondary scoring option, which this season has been Thaddeus Young, but once the Spurs really started to double Thaddeus Young in the post, and then if LaVine and Young did the pick and roll, they were making sure that Young was not able to catch the basketball. Young's basically nullified. we need someone else to step up here. And it should be Markkanen, but it's not him. So maybe it's Patrick Williams in the future. But another thing that the Bulls needed, which I talked about, is that floor general. Because then if that floor general can handle the ball and understand the pace of the game, then LaVine can then just look to score. He doesn't have to look to be like, all right, how is everyone in their spots? Is everyone ready to go? I even applaud LaVine for what he did when he came back into this game, because he saw that we're playing too fast. Like, we're going at 100 miles per hour. We don't have control of ourselves. We're losing the basketball. We're taking bad shots. So I'm going to show you even a play here that I actually applaud LaVine with, because he was trying to really control the pace for the Bulls. But unfortunately, while he was saying, like, hey, let's slow down, let's make sure we get a good shot here, everyone else was going at 100 miles per hour, including Satoransky. So this play right here, he walks it up very slowly, and he looks and makes sure this is a horn set, right? He looks and makes sure, like, okay, are we all in position? And then you even see, he looks at Patrick Williams, he's like, all right, let's go. And then Patrick Williams comes up, sets the screen here, and then you look at LaVine. He's like, all right, we're going to make sure we run this set. And then he gives it to Satoransky, but then I don't know what Satoransky's doing here. Because then he's like, okay, this is supposed to be, a stagger screen for Markkanen to come up and get the ball up here, I guess. And he doesn't give it to him, which Markkanen was basically wide open here. But he tries to spin off Patty Mills. And again, going too fast. This is our point guard, right? Going too fast. And then it ends up in a turnover for Satoransky to Patty Mills. We keep this going, and it's basically a 4-on-2. And then DeJounte Murray hits the floater, right? That's going too fast, right? This is the type of stuff that, a floor general is, like, they would understand, hey, let's not go that fast, right? And LaVine, I thought, actually was like, all right, let's slow this down. And he waited for everyone to get to their sets, because that was one of the problems with the full court pressure, is that it got everyone out of the offensive sets. But then, not only that, then the Bulls were like, okay, let's just give it to the three-point shooter right there in the corner, have him chuck up a shot, and then they miss, right? That's not what's supposed to happen. If a full court pressure is there, you need to get past the full court pressure, but then reset. Make sure then you get a good shot. Make sure you run the play. But right here, for example, it's like, all right, LaVine's like, all right, we're in our sets. Let's go. He did initial action with Patrick Williams. He hands it off to Satoransky, and I don't know why Sato decided, hey, I'm going to just try to go right to the basket right off Mills. Like, that's just bad IQ. That's just terrible decision-making, and then it ends up in a turnover to this. So this was a definition of the entire from end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter. Overall, it's a terrible team loss. It's not on the bench. It's on everybody for this loss. I've seen a lot of Bulls fans kind of talk about how it's like this is the worst loss of the season, even worse than OKC's, and I disagree. First off, I did not expect the Bulls to win this game initially. I understand that San Antonio is missing a lot of pieces, but this is a team run by Greg Popovich, and they still have some veterans playing. This is a really solid team. They're in the playoffs right now in the West, right? So I didn't expect this. I didn't expect the Bulls to win this game. When the Bulls got up, I'm like, oh, okay, you should win this game now. And then obviously the Bulls didn't. So I'm not like sitting here thinking like, wow, we completely blew this opportunity. We absolutely blew an opportunity, but it's not me thinking that we're going against the Thunder, who we absolutely should win against no matter what, and then us blowing a lead to them, which we did earlier. That's the reason why I think the Thunder blowout that we lost, that's a worse loss. And not only that, but we had so many turnovers that game. It wasn't necessarily the turnovers in this game. We had 17, but it was more just the quick shots, the bad decision-making, the bad times to just all of a sudden run towards the rim and try to lay it up when you need to run clock, right? Bulls then now face the Nuggets, so this was a game that I'm like, it would have been good to win, but I didn't expect to win. I don't expect the Bulls to win against the Nuggets either, but I hope they come ready to play and they learn from this game. But we see that this Bulls team needs a floor general, and they need a secondary scorer that can help LaVine when LaVine had a great game today, but, once DeJounte Murray and San Antonio went to the four guards, and then it was just a switch everything defense. Like, they shut down LaVine because you give it to the other guys, and the other guys they're just too scared to do anything with the basketball right now. So I'm hoping for just a better, at least we see that this Bulls team learn against the Nuggets. Like, I don't expect them to win. I just want this Bulls team to play at their own pace, or at least try to control the pace of the game throughout the entire game. All 48 minutes, play at the Bulls' pace all game. They do that, I think it's a success. I wouldn't have that much of an issue if the Bulls lose that game, but they show that they learned from this game against the Spurs. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.